In this lecture, I will quickly introduce you to online Python IDEs that we can use if we are just testing code and testing snippets of code, because there are so many times when I don't feel like firing up the entire Python system, and in that situation it just makes sense that I test my code or snippets of code in an online Python IDE, and there are 3 of those that I can recommend, and I have provided the links to these in the resources section of this lecture. And the first one is pythonfiddle.com. So if you just type this in your browser, you should come to a page like this, and then there's this one by Tutorials Point, and then finally there is the Python interpreter, online Python interpreter by mathcs, and it's a complicated one. And as you can see, they have provided us with some sample code, and this is not a complete version of Python, but in case if you want to test out bits and bobs of code, I think this is pretty decent. So let's just run the default code. So I'm going to print, and there, it gives an output, hello world, pick a number, and so on. And same for this, we just press execute and it tells us hello world, the most common Python program we seem to be starting with. Now I have some code written with me, and it's just testing if and else conditionalities. In case the code doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, these are things that we are going to start covering in the future. But let me just copy paste this thing in Python Fiddle, because I really like Python Fiddle, and obviously all the indents have been copied in and so on, and I'm going to run it, and as you can see I get the response big. Essentially I'm just testing if my x is less than equal to 5, which it is not, and if it is not, then we print big, so it prints big for me. And I can do the same here, print and execute big, and same here, big. So Python, online Python IDEs, they do come quite handy on and off, and especially when we want to just quickly try out bits and bobs of code. And these are the 3 online Python interpreters that I recommend for quick Python code testing. Okay, so while I'm going to demonstrate this course on a Windows-based laptop, Python is platform agnostic, and yes, you can install Python on Unix, Mac OS, and other operating systems. And it's just a question of, say, if you want to install your Python on Mac OS, it's just a question of going to this page, downloads Mac OS X, and installing and downloading the installer which is compatible for your system. And the latest release is the Python 3.6.2. I'm going to be demonstrating all my code in Python 3.6.1, but these are not drastically different from each other, so you can go right ahead and either install 3.6.1 or 3.6.2. And in case you have one of the older versions of Python 2 on your system, then I'm going to be guiding you through the variations between Python 2 and 3, and these are just this is some information pertaining to using Python on Macintosh, and this information has been provided by docs.python using Mac. And essentially when you download Mac for your system, well, if you are on 10.8, then you have Python 2.7 in the pre-installed by Apple, and yes, you have the option of reinstalling Python 3 from the website. And the Mac Python 3.6 folder will be in your applications folder, and the software, it seems, comes with the Ideone, and essentially you can go right ahead and read up all of this, or you can just go and start installing the Python on your Mac-based operating system or the Unix system, and then following the normal way that you fire up programs for the first time, you can fire up program, and it's not the Python program, and firing up Python and getting started with Python in an interactive mode or using the inbuilt Ideone is not very difficult. So after you complete installing, basically you should be able to access the Python 3.6.1 shell or whichever Python you have, and this is the interactive Python, and this should not be too difficult. Additionally, You also have the option of installing Python with Raspberry Pi in case you have a Raspberry Pi, and all the details they have been provided over here. And in case you do get stuck with Python installation on your own systems, then you can always drop me a message and I'll be happy to help.